Hi, everyone. I have live with me today this amazing expert in recovery and self-help who's had his own share of struggles in life. Daniel Andrew Lockwood. Daniel Lockwood. Welcome. And if anyone can write in the chat, can you hear us? Hopefully you can.
Hello.
Okay, Daniel, you've written a new book, which I'm so excited to own. And I've been reading it, and it's different. I love the way you do things because it's practical application of the tools in life that really help people. I've never heard anyone put it so succinctly as you, with actual
No, thank you.
steps to work.
It's right time.
Show me the cover of your book. It's called Inside Out.
Try to get it without a glare there.
Hold it up closer to the camera. Yeah, Inside Out. Brilliant new book. It can be purchased on Amazon. And tell us more later. So what prompted you to write this book?
Well, years ago, when I first got interested in the idea of self-help or self-improvement, I was directed to go to the local bookstore. And I know what's a bookstore, right? And I remember standing in front of the plethora of books that were offered, and there were thousands of titles and all kinds of subjects, but there were very few that were directed both toward men and that were written to be a beginner's guide, as it were. All the books are normally very specific towards certain subjects and so on. And in the end, I thought, well, I can write something that will help people start, that has a lot of different subjects in it and will get people interested in the different aspects of self-help. So I sat down and wrote it.
But see, when you said it's about helping men, so few men have these tools, and I raise boys, and they sometimes are very shut down. They don't want to talk about their emotions. I think it's so helpful to men to hear that you're allowed to admit you're vulnerable and have your problems in life, and you don't have to be strong in front of the world all the time. If you don't get that out, it can actually cause diseases, I think. I think if you repress your emotions too much.
So too. One of my beliefs is that unexpressed emotions always work their way to the surface in three ways. They are magnified, they are altered, and they are unexpected. So those three things happen when we manufacture an emotion, but we don't let it out. That means we've made it. It's already done, but we've decided to hold it back, which is ego or whatever you want to call it. And it mixes with a bunch of other things, and sooner or later it just explodes. And that happens all the time. And it doesn't just happen with men. I mean, I think that holding back on emotions is very unhealthy.
I don't mean that you have to go out and cry in public. I mean, but talk to somebody, because if you really repress all this anger and emotional incongruity and all your insecure feelings, I've heard, and I hate to say this, that cancer is often a result of repressed emotion. Sometimes, I mean, not always. We don't know the source of some.
Well, I think the evidence is this. Here's, if we want to talk evidence of how an emotional state will affect you physically, almost everybody's experienced it. Let's go back to high school, right? Yeah. And you've got a test next Monday, and it's Friday, and you haven't studied for it. And you go, God, I really don't want to do this test. I really don't want to do this test. I want to stay home. And you will you will force yourself into a situation where you feel so bad that you will actually get sick.
I know, that's true.
You'll actually make yourself sick.
Oh, wait, genetic scientists have proven, and I had one tell me this point blank, 93% of all disease and illness has its roots in stress, which is fear, worry, and panic. It's like, oh, it's all mental. to begin with?
Well, I think almost everybody will agree that if you're sick, you can make it worse by thinking about making it worse. And not there's a way to actually push it forward. Everybody's experienced that. So if it's true that we can think ourselves into a state of stress and pain, then the obvious uh, uh, conclusion is it's got to be true to unthink ourselves out of that as well.
I love
It
that.
has to be. It has to be true.
Let me go back for a second. One of the my favorite things in your book is your statement that life is supposed to be, you actually have come to the conclusion that life is supposed to be easy and enjoyable. And you've been through a lot of things in life, a lot of things. Tell us a few of the things. You came out of amnesia. You just had knee replacement. You're a master plumber in Colorado. How did you ever find, and you had a really rough childhood and you had lots of ailments, but your conclusion is life is supposed to be easy and enjoyable. And I've come with that too, after a life of trauma. So tell me where that comes from.
I just think that my belief that life is truly easy and should be enjoyable lies in the evidence that we can look at how we make it hard and difficult all the time. And when I say that is, what I mean by that is there are certain rules, and we're going to talk spiritual rules here, not necessarily, the rule book of the police force or something of that nature, but just the spiritual laws of the spirit. Just to follow those things, and then life actually becomes. It's not so much of a challenge. It becomes a lot easier if you just follow some simple rules. Like I tell young guys, it's always better to go to bed um, right right it's always better to go to bed um right or wrong and happy than right and miserable. Okay. uh
Yeah. You
yeah,
want to be right and miserable? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's so true. You don't need to be the need to be right all the time leads to a lot of misery. And I also say this: the fastest way to prove somebody else wrong is to let them do it their way. You don't need to say anything at all.
Oh, I
just
love that. Oh my God, that's easier.
It's so much, and there are rules out there that if you follow them, things really get smooth. I mean, they just do. Kindness and responsibility and love and all of those things. If you follow those paths, a lot of the stumbling blocks that most people experience kind of vanish, I think.
Let me go back for a second. I also had this one event in my life changed everything. One day, I surrendered. I screamed out in prayer, and I didn't have a belief in God of religion. I yelled, I actually asked for help to the universe. And I
Mhm.
must have trusted. Now, you had this incident as well. It blew me away reading the preface of your book. His book is called Insight Out. It is brilliant. It's very short. It has concrete rules for life changes that can really rapidly change your life. I would say instantly, because I've had an instant transformation too. And I forget, wow, what was the state of mind I had at the time? A willingness to believe in a power greater than myself that loved me, that the universe was kind. So what was yours? You were driving. I'll never forget that opening chapter of your book. You were driving and you suddenly found yourself.
I
Was
had
it?
an aneurysm while I was driving down the highway.
Okay, tell us that story. An aneurysm driving down the highway, and the
I
moment
was
you cried out.
in January of 1995. I was on my way to work. It was on a Sunday, and I hadn't had a drink in about 48 hours. And my consumption at that point was about a handle of vodka a day, which is equal to 2/5. Now, a fifth is a fifth of a gallon. So the people out there that don't know these numbers, that's what that means. So it equates to about 60 drinks a day, 60 beers, whatever you want to call it. In any case, I had no idea at all that you could die from alcohol withdrawals, and you can. Believe there be no doubt, if you know somebody who is struggling now, that's something that you need to know, and it's also something that they need to know.
Yeah, you can drive withdrawal.
It's very important. To be honest with you, after this incident, I probably should have gone to the hospital, and I didn't. And I do explain that in the book. The whole left side of my body shut down as I was going about.
While you're driving?
While I'm driving. I'm going at probably 70 miles an hour in a stick shift. And my left arm curled up under my chin. I went blind in my left eye. My left leg quit working, and I'm driving a stick shift, so I couldn't shift. Oh. And I'm driving down the highway, and I'm like, "What's going on? I can't see anything." And I managed to pull over to the side and hop out of my van on my right leg, trying to look through my right eye and uncurl my left arm, and it was a mess. And after about 15, 20 minutes, everything popped back in, and I kept going to work. And I worked nights and janitorial, so I was by myself, and I was usually locked in these stores. And I was already very, very good at hiding my conditions from other people. And I walked in, put my hands in my pockets, and smiled. And when they left and walked out, I collapsed on the floor.
Oh, so you're saying you had an aneurysm in the car, or almost paralyzed? How did you drive? I mean,
I don't know. And I kind of felt, and you would think I would have said at that point, "That's it, I'm going to quit," and I didn't. What I said was, "Let's get it over with." To myself, I said, if more of this is coming, right, let's just get it over with. And I really went to town on that. And for some reason that year, in July of that year, I sobered up. When I
go back for a second, you collapsed on the floor after everyone went to work. And what happened at that moment when you collapsed? When did you cry out?
I probably laid there for about 3 hours.
When did you cry out into this prayer?
I got up and I said, I don't care if I said what I call a prayer, but it was really just a cry for help. I look back and I could see that it was a prayer, but it really was just, it was a statement of letting go, is what it was.
Help me. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, help me.
And what I said was, I don't care if I die broke and naked tomorrow, as long as I die sober.
Wow.
I was willing to let go of everything, even my clothing. But I really was. And I was still in conflict at that point. I really was. And I did call the phone numbers that I was supposed to call at that time. And I did talk to somebody, and I started my journey. But it took another 6 months before it stuck. It really did. And I do want to say that my body, my physical makeup was breaking down so badly that I could spit blood.
God, honey, wow.
That's how badly everything was breaking down, and we're talking almost 30 years ago. So, and I'm still here. So, if you're out there and you think it's too late, it's not. Okay, yeah. It's really not. I've met people that go, "Oh, I'm in my 50s. It's too late to quit." And I'm like, "Really? You think it's you think it's too late to quit?" I mean,
did you hear what Science magazine just said? Our bodies don't even, oh, this is amazing. I heard it today. We don't really biologically have any reason to age. Aging isn't an actual biological
I've read that over the years. Yeah.
We don't have to age at all, but it's our toxic thoughts and toxins in our body and the beliefs we have and the constant obsession with age. Get rid of the news. That's what I'm saying. Stop buying into the mortal realm.
I kind of have this belief that says the reason why we age is because we think we're supposed to.
Exactly. We think we're supposed to.
I think we're supposed to age. And Dr. Wayne Dyer said, and one of my mentors, among many, said that he was never going to let the old man move in.
Oh, I love that. I love him so much.
You know,
Yeah.
and I look in the mirror and I'm like, God, all my hair's falling out and it's all turning white and things like that. But the real way to put this is this. And I can't remember who said this. I think it was who were the second the Jefferson and Madison were like best friends, right? Anyway, they used to write to each other all the time, and one of them wrote to each other and said, the house that Madison is living in is falling apart. One of them, the windows are broken and the floorboards are coming up and the curtains are all ratty, but the occupant's just fine. There's nothing wrong with the occupant of the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that actually stuck with me, that little saying. And I get that what's inside the spirit, whatever makes up who we are, I'm not going to allow that to get older in age. This right here is not me. This isn't me.
I know.
And the reason why I know this isn't me is I can go to the mirror, and if I look at my reflection and say out loud, all I am is just this body. I'm just blood and a brain and lungs and bone and skin and nothing else, I hear a lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. There's no way this is just who I am. That doesn't make sense. It's this is my house. This is my vehicle. And by the way, I am obligated spiritually to take care of it, which I do slip on a lot. But this isn't who I am, and it never is.
No, I really have now come to the conclusion that everything is spiritual. Spiritual just means it's a thought universe. Ralph Waldo Emerson said it's a thought universe. Your thoughts lead you astray or they lead you toward joy. And it's what you think about all day long that becomes your reality. And if you're thinking negative thoughts, that you're old and you keep saying I'm old and you keep saying my sciatica, you're going to own it. Why would you want to own an ailment or a disease? It's like so easy to shed where the world is a loose garment. It sounds easy, but practicing these principles can be difficult at times, you know.
By the way, anybody out there who's triggered by the word spiritual, keep in mind that the word spiritual just means of the spirit. It just means, for me anyway, it means from the inside out. That's all it means. It doesn't mean people have a tendency to equate the idea of spiritual with religion, and they're two totally separate things. They have nothing to do with each other. Trust me, they really don't.
The word God has become so political and dirty and misunderstood. The word God, to me, and because I wasn't raised in a fundamentalist religion where I believe in you're only saved after death. That's not true at all. It's a change of consciousness. You can have heaven right here, right here. We're supposed to be helping each other. And I know that one of these rules is that God will open doors for you if you open doors for others. That's a law in the universe. That's why self-centered fear keeps you small, isolated, ill. And it kept me in my cups drinking all the time because I was so afraid of life. I was so afraid of anyone knowing who I really was or seeing me not looking perfect. And, you know, a lot of it's trauma-based, but we're here to overcome those things and to become of love and service to others, as Jay Westbrook says. So God will open doors for you if you open doors for others. And it simply means, to me, God is love. Love in the flesh. You and I talking together to help other people is a form of sharing our experience, strength, and hope.
I actually talk about that at one point in the book. I said, you know, we are meant to be teachers. And to me, I don't want to tell people what to do. That's the last thing I want to do. I just want to show them the doors that they need to walk through. If they're lost, try this. That's all. I don't care what path you take. That doesn't mean anything at all to me. The bottom line is this: if you're making your life a better place to be, then by osmosis, my life gets better.
Exactly.
Because we're all connected.
Right.
So please go out there and make your life better. At the very end of my book I wrote, So there's a saying in the Tao. If people don't know what the Tao is, it's spelled Tao, and it's 81 verses that go into Taoism, and it's been around forever, longer than the Bible. Um, anyway, one of the sayings in there, and everybody knows this saying, is that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's in the Tao, right? And my observation with that is, if you don't know where to take your first step, you never will.
Okay, that's what I love about you. You had a blog. Okay, Daniel and I met on Quora, which is a forum where people ask questions. And I was helping people over there. For some reason, I was motivated to write answers to questions about people that are very depressed. A lot of young people, by the way. And how can I get through life? I feel suicidal. And how can I stop drinking? And I would write what I know from 30 years of sobriety, because to me, it's an incremental progressive program of unburdening ourselves, opening up the curtains, finding the light. And then you were writing back to me, you should keep helping these people because you were helping them too. I love everything you wrote. And I found your blog, Light on the Threshold. What a cool title. So I began reading it. I went, wow, you really have concrete steps for men and women, because you went through your own incredible crises in life. You have steps that are easier to understand than anything else. You know, I love the 12 steps, but yours is more, relatable to people with all sorts of problems in life. So then talk about how your blog led to your book.
Well, actually, it was the other way around. I had started writing my book before I started my blog, and I had gotten together with a gal who was an English teacher at Yale. She's my editor.
Oh, cool.
And she was the one that suggested I started writing a blog. And if nothing else, to get used to writing and be more comfortable with expressing myself. And I will say this, my blog is not edited. I cannot afford that. That's maybe later in life. So it can be a little verbose, right? Be patient if you read anything with my blog. I have a tendency to be a little bit more colorful, and the book is way more refined and straight to the point, easier to read. And I do want to point out that there's 18 chapters in the book, okay? Mm-hmm. And at the end of every chapter is a suggestion as to how to practice what we've just discussed.
It's so easy to understand. I love it.
I like I said, there's some things in here that are like, when I've discussed with other people, they're aha moments. And it really, there are things that can really remove a lot of obstacles in life.
Give me an aha moment in there.
Okay. Well, at the risk of selling less books, one of my favorite things, and we've probably discussed this on another podcast, but I'm going to go ahead and discuss it again anyway because it's extremely important, is I would say, I would ask this question, and we'll have a conversation back and forth with it, is, do you think that having a regret is the same thing as holding a grudge against yourself? Does that make sense?
Yes.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, it's logical. It follows that you go, I have a regret, and basically I'm holding a grudge against myself. It's the same thing, okay? So here's why this is really unhealthy. Let's say you have a grudge against your neighbor. You saw them kick your dog, or they threw trash over your fence, or they flipped you off the other day, or whatever they did. And you go, oh, this person, I've got this grudge against this person. Well, what's going on here? Well, basically what you want is you want that person to be punished at some level that you feel evens the scales based on how you think you've been treated. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So here we go down the rabbit hole a little. If you run the program, and it is a program because our brains are computers and we have programs in them. And the problem is you can't deprogram your brain. The only thing you can do is override it with stronger programs. that's what kind of sucks about being a human. But anyway, let's say you've got a regret, or you're holding a grudge against yourself. The brain's first order of business is self-punishment.
Yeah.
Because that's how we're wired. You have a grudge and you go, oh, punishment's next. So you run this regret. You go, oh, I wish I hadn't done, ABC way back in, 1987 or whatever. And we do have those regrets that go back decades, right?
Yeah.
And the brain goes, uh-oh, you know what? I better punish myself. And so you go out there and you do something to ruin your life. And I do it. I am not beyond this behavior yet. I do the same thing. I am just, at least I can recognize it, and I do stop it a lot. But I still have a tendency to follow through on those knee-jerk reactions of self-punishment. And the real problem is when you run the program of regret and you trigger self-punishment, that triggers more regret. Okay, now you've got and so you start going down this damn spiral, and it's really hard to get out of. There's a way out, though. There is.
What's the way out? What's the quickest way out of beating up on yourself?
The quickest way out is this. So let's say you have a grudge against your neighbor and you're tired of it. You go, you know what? Screw this. Let's mend fences. Let's bury the hatchet. What's that really called? It's forgiveness, is it not? So if you decide to drop your grudge against your neighbor and you go with forgiveness, that way you stop the cycle. And so that means the only way to get out of the cycle of self-punishment by running regret is to go to the mirror and say out loud to yourself, I forgive you.
I love that. It works.
It really does. Now, I do want to point out something here. I do believe in remorse. Remorse is real similar to regret, but remorse doesn't have baggage attached to it, okay? Remorse is usually one and done, and you're over with it, and you're going, all right, I'm not going to do that again. And remorse is what keeps me from going up to another random woman and asking her when her baby's due, only to find out she's not pregnant. All right?
We've all done that.
That's remorse. But one and done, I'm not going to run that again, and no big deal. Or the other one too is and this is, I'm sure it's way more true with men than with women, is you'll be at a party or a function or something, and you'll walk up to a random guy and you go, hey, she's pretty attractive. What do you think? And that guy's like, yeah, that's my wife. And you're going, and you go, well, you got good taste. See you later. And actually, the way out of that is to say, I still mean it. Just, it's not that hard to get out of that one, but it does. You're going. It makes you grind your teeth a little, and you're like, all right, let's not say that again.
Wait, you're kind of talking about something in the 12 steps, which is an amazing program, which I never knew, to look at my part in every argument, to look at my part in a conflict and go, what did I do there that could be, you gain humility when you admit you're wrong and you can say you're sorry. To me, that's like, wow, that opens up the universe, because then people,
there's a lot of power in that.
There's a lot of power in saying you're wrong and you're sorry. It makes then you become part of the human race.
That creates allies, actually. When you say I'm wrong and you're right, that's how you create allies. That's how you get people to start working together.
Exactly. I'm trying to change the audience on our show. It's not public, and it keeps saying it's going to be public and it's friends only. So we'll have to figure that out later. That's why I was looking down. Sorry. But
okay. I keep looking down for notes and stuff I have to. So
okay. Can't seem to work this app very well. I'll get it right one of these days. What I also love, go ahead, finish your sentence.
If you're going to look up my book on Amazon, it's easier to find if you just use my name. Just write in Daniel Andrew Lockwood. Then it's going to be a lot. There's other titles out there with my title. You can't copyright a title, and you never should be able to. And so there's other titles that say Inside Out.
Inside Out.
And it's going to be easier just to type in my name to find it.
And it's a very short, simple book, but it's so incredibly valuable, and men will really get a lot out of it. Maybe you should do an audio book, or we should.
I want to. That's going to cost me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the cost for that I've been told so far is $3,000.
Well, you can read it out loud yourself on a podcast, or just keep have a YouTube show. Hang on, let me see if Facebook is still. I can make this public. Tell us about chapter 2. When I was reading it, chapter 1, or is it 2, where you talk about the reversal technique. That's pretty cool. A little more.
That's chapter 1 is the reversal technique, and honestly, it's the glue in the book that kind of, and I mention it as we go through the chapters, as to how this works. Okay, and basically, chapter 1 says that whatever we believe in, whatever we have an absolute belief in, that, and this is personal. It doesn't have to be out there for an absolute belief. It's a personal belief, all right? Whatever you believe in and you absolutely know is true, the opposite of that belief also has to be true. It just does. Most people look at things and they assign opposites to how they view the world. The opposite of man is woman, the opposite of day is night, the opposite of up is down, and so on. But the truth of the matter is they're not opposites. They're actually symbiotic forms of the same thing. You can't have man without woman, you can't have up without down, and you can't have day without night. They're both the same thing, but we actually look at things as if they're opposite. And they're not. We just assign them that way. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing, before I get into further about talking about opposites, is that most people, including myself, by the way, have a tendency to look at life from a negative point of view. Now, this is not bad, and it's not wrong, and it's not evil. It's actually highly functional to look at life from a negative point of view, and there's two reasons why we do it.
Okay.
The two reasons why we look at life negatively is, first is the old built-in fight or flight that is in our deepest part of our brain, which says
hunter and the gatherer, right?
Yeah, and you go, okay, you know what? There's a bear. I'm going to avoid him, and I don't want to walk off this cliff, and don't eat those berries because the last guy died. Okay. So you go, okay, I'm not going to do that. And so you're looking for the safest path to the most production, and I get that. So you're going to go, you're going to look at life negatively, and you go, I want to avoid all that, which, by the way, doesn't work. I'll discuss that later. Anyway, and the second thing is that, and this is really interesting, this is why we look at life negatively, and so a little bit of an aha here, is whatever we are challenged with through work, through home, anything at all, we ask ourselves two questions. We say, how can I make things better, or how can I fix things? So that means we're always in a mindset of lack. We're going, where can we insert ourselves into whatever's in front of us and make it better or fix it?
Wait, stop. Are you saying that it's human nature to constantly, no matter what you're given to look at, you want to fix it?
Sure.
Oh my God. That's what happens when you go to pitch a TV show to agents or to a Netflix, let's say. They want to be able to get in there and fix what if they're always looking for the flaws. That's interesting. And
so then you go, how do I insert myself into the equation and raise the quality of whatever? There's nothing wrong with that. It's totally okay. It's just that we're in the mindset and the habit of doing it. All right. Which means that we are not in the mindset and habit of looking at things positively. All right.
Yeah.
So that takes a little bit of a habit. You got to start getting one of my so we're going to go with, and the first chapter of this book is available to read on Amazon. You can read it. I'll
put the link of your book down below the chat later and on YouTube as well, and on all the other platforms.
And so if I read off anything here, it doesn't really matter because it's already out there for everybody to look at anyway. So we'll take a common belief and let's go ahead and flip it around and see what we get. Okay. We'll start off, and this is in the book, with an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Okay. Now, if you want to take that thought or that belief and go, I believe in that, I think that's absolute, then you've got to believe that the opposite of that is also true. Okay. So if an idle mind is the devil's workshop, then we could say opposite with opposite intent or words that a purposeful mind is God's resting place.
Now, wait, is your definition of God, by the way, is, because you're not religious either, your definition of God is good?
My version of God is that God is everything.
Everything good, by the way. That's what I believe.
Well, I think God is everything, period, because you can't point to anything and say that's not God. Because as soon
I actually have evidence of that, scientific evidence, believe it or not.
As soon as you point to something and go, that thing, that idea, that whatever is not God, now you're talking about two creators, and I don't believe in that.
I don't either. I believe in all good all the time.
Why?
You're going to go to
it's all just one thing, right? So anyway, if an idle mind is a devil's workshop and a purposeful mind is God's resting place, the bottom line is both of these are saying the exact same thing. It's the same information, but now what you've done is you have extracted something that tells you how to avoid the first part of the equation. How do you avoid an idle mind being the devil's workshop? Well, you become purposeful,
productive,
and not only that, you rest, you relax, and you calm down. And I've said that you can look at some of the 10 commandments and flip those around a little bit, which I believe in, of course, and people accept for the most part. If we say, let me go down here. I'm scrolling, so be patient there, people. If thou shalt not kill, if we go, thou shalt not kill, it can be also viewed as thou shalt promote life.
Exactly.
Same thing. It's the exact same thing. There's no changing in the definitions at all. It's just that you're embracing more information. And thou shalt not steal would be thou shalt be giving.
Giving, generous. By the way, generosity is the key. The minute you stop being self-centered and hoarding and want means lack. If you want something too badly, you're not going to get it because you're wanting it. You're in a state of lack. You reflect, it's the law of attraction in the universe. But yeah, you're right. The more giving you are, the more you get. I had a friend who delivered Meals on Wheels, and he never had to get his car fixed. He always had enough money to pay for that car because he was constantly using it for other people, for love and service. Believe it or not, it's a metaphysical rule of the universe that the more you give, the more you receive. And your motives, don't have to be that impure. You don't have to go, I'm going to get more if I give more. It's really just an abundant thought process. When you think abundantly, you're living in a more abundant realm. I mean,
when you give more, you get more. I agree with that because that means that you're part of a stronger and stronger chain. You teach with one hand and learn with the other, and the more you do that, the stronger the entire chain becomes. I'm sure there are people that have worked out there over the years with supervisors who are unwilling to teach you what they know because they think you might be a threat eventually to their position. And guess what? You're supposed to be. You're supposed to be a threat to their position. And the reason why is so that they can find somebody to replace them and they can move up the food chain. That's how it's supposed to work.
I never thought of it that way. Oh my God.
You want people to replace you. You don't, that's just the way it is.
We should all be more giving and loving to even the people. This whole mindset right now politically is that people think, I'm a victim. I didn't get enough because those immigrants are going to take what I have. No, if you think differently, you will have will multiply for everyone. The more loving you are to everyone, the more everyone has. They put an experiment of a Starbucks on a corner, and then Pete's Coffee came on the other corner. It tripled the business of both because people are going there for coffee, and oh, here's another coffee place. If that's crowded, I'll go to this one. That's where they
You
go for
can
coffee.
you can actually find that example online when you look at why there's always a Lowe's built to Home Depot, next to Home Depot. They do
Really?
that. They're always next to each other,
Oh my
and
God.
they increase each other's business by doing that.
Well, can
Yep.
you tell me a few more of these reversals? I love that you, besides the
So,
first.
I have a bunch of examples at the end of the chapter, and anybody can go to, like I said, the preview of the book, and it's on both Barnes and Noble and Amazon. Yeah, here's some of the examples. I say that the love of money is the root of all evil. And by the way, everybody says that wrong. Money in and of itself is not the root of evil. It's the love of money. That's what I think St. Peter said. So basically, material things. The love of money is the root of all evil, and I say the detachment from material things is the summit of nobility. All right.
Say it again. The what?
If the love of money is the root of all evil, then the reverse of that would be the detachment from material things is the summit of nobility.
The detachment from materialism. See, I actually think materialism is what's keeping us down. The minute I lift my thoughts above the material world, the mortal realm, I call it, to the higher thoughts, which are always loving, kind, no guilt, no regret, no shame, no fear. I operate on a much higher level, and I'm able to hear the great thoughts. I think that's how Mozart and Beethoven and great writers got their ideas, because these are higher thoughts that heal and help others because they're loving.
But what I mean by detachment from material things is I want material things too. I mean, I gotta have toilet paper and food and a roof over my head. But when I say detachment from material things, personally, this is for me. What I mean by that is I do not base my self-worth on all of this crap. Okay, I just don't. That's not who I am, and it never will be. I don't. I don't base my happiness on whether or not the Broncos win. I don't care. It's nice to see them win. It's fine with me, and it's fun to watch. But I'm not going to let those events affect how I feel about myself and how I feel about life. I don't. I don't. I don't base my self-worth on this stuff coming out of my head. Okay.
Right.
A lot of guys are, they don't want to go bald and whatever. That's fine. That's them. But me, I don't care. I don't base my self-worth on that. I just don't. I'm detached from.
What does a guy do if he feels he doesn't have the right car or enough money to take a girl out? A lot of younger people are going, oh my God, the old paradigm in my generation, I act like I'm in the 80s, you had to have money to go out on a date. And I want to lift people up to realize, God, there's all these meetup groups, there's common interests, there's ways you can build together if you find the right person who doesn't only value you for your car. I mean, that's a tough one though for guys who can't seem to find a job.
Yeah, ask yourself what you want written on your tombstone is what I say for that.
Oh,
I
wow.
say, I wouldn't want written on my tombstone, here lies a guy who had a great car. What's that mean? It's just, look, I want nice stuff too. I do. But that's secondary to what I really want in life. I want inner qualities. I don't want outer qualities. Inner quality, kindness and patience and forgiveness and tolerance and charity and all of that. That's what I want to work
But
on.
Daniel, I got a secret, and I found this 30 years ago when I first walked in my first 12-step meeting at the pit of despair and suicidal depression. I almost died the night before, and when I simply surrendered my old, I said, show me the way, maybe I'll believe that there is a loving force in the universe. When I did that, this force picked me up and carried me, and money came, oddly enough. I was so, the IRS was going to put a lien on my bank account, and I literally said, well, surrendering and praying to this beautiful force of love worked for alcoholism, death, suicide, all these other things. Maybe it'll work for this. And I surrendered my fear that day. And the very next day, I got a notice from the state of California saying they found exactly that amount of money I needed.
Yeah, no, I know that goes.
Okay, so I'm telling you this, if you put your eyes on the good in life, the things you can do to help others, the kindness, and get rid of this constant worry, fear, depression, and self-centered misery, even if you have nothing, and you start going out to read to the blind or just do one little step outside your realm of misery, the doors start opening. I swear to you, that's the solution. The solution is spiritual, and then the material things come that you need.
I
Always.
agree with that. I absolutely do. Now, for those of you out there who aren't familiar with the program, the 12-step programs and stuff, there's a saying on a lot of the walls in the clubs and meeting rooms and stuff that says, "Let go, let God." That's real common in the
let God
in the meeting rooms. Now, letting go is not the same thing as giving up, and a lot of people equate those two things. They think they're the same thing, and they're not. I've got it in my book. I talk about that in there.
Good.
Here's the difference, okay? And it's a really, really, really important difference. And we're going to talk about the difference between giving up and surrender, okay? Or letting go. I would say that giving up equates to you being lost in your boat in the middle of the ocean, poking a hole in the bottom of it, throwing all your provisions overboard, and sabotaging your radio. Okay, that's giving up. That's suicide. Please don't give up. Please don't ever give up, because as soon as your life gets better, just like I said, so does mine. So it's a little bit selfish there.
Right.
Anyway, now letting go or surrender, here's what this is. And this takes a lot of faith, and it also takes a ton of courage. All right. Letting go is being lost on the ocean in your boat, pulling into a port that you've never seen, and hiring somebody you've never met to take you somewhere you've never been.
Yeah.
Okay, that's surrender, and that's tough to do. Now, I want to point out, it's still your boat. It never wasn't. It's always your boat. If you want to stop the process, stop the process. But stepping back and letting higher forces take over. And by the way, my belief in higher power is pretty much anything. If you're bad with money, a higher power is going to be somebody that's good with money. It doesn't have to be some sort of a deity or anything like that. Not at first. All you need is to go out there and find somebody to teach you and show you a better way than you're already practicing. That's a higher power right there.
The higher power is evident through people. Like if there are really people that are good people out there, good Samaritans everywhere that will rush in to help, when people have an accident or a crisis or a wildfire, there's all these good Samaritans. Remember how
yes,
Mr. Rogers said, find the helpers. They are doing God's work in the world. God is simply love in the flesh. It's simply the practical application of helping others. It makes the world go around. And the more you help others, the more you are helped. I swear to you, it may seem counterintuitive to go help someone else when you're destitute, but it's the first step to a new life, and it is transformative. And it's like you said, when you called out that first prayer, that changed everything in your life.
Now, Lydia, you're so right about that. And what I love about this is the people who are the best at what they do actually want to help also. It equates. It's the same thing. It isn't like they're going to hold back the information. They want to help other people. Right. They just do. Those who are at the best and at the pinnacle of their whatever they're good at actually want to share it.
Totally.
They always do.
Yeah.
They don't hoard
to do it when you're low down. When you feel like you're low, there's always some help out there. When you scream out for help, even at going into a 12-step meeting, into some of these, I've been to places all over the world. And the worst part of the worst area of Los Angeles, I went down to do at a crack house to talk and help people. And there were desperate souls there. And they had to walk in that room and there was free coffee and a muffin and people that would help them. So there's everywhere you go, there's help. You just have to find the helpers and you have to get over your isolation.
Yeah, you got to let go. You've got to say, I've got faith. And now, remember, the people that you hire to steer your boat for a while, you got to be a little careful with who you pick, because you can only make your life as good as their life is, because that's all they can teach you. It's like getting marriage advice from somebody who's gone through 6 divorces. Don't do that.
But Daniel, the phrase I love is that no human power could relieve my alcoholism. God couldn't would if he were sought. Now, I don't believe in an anthropomorphic man-like guy in the sky with a long white beard casting down fear and punishment. That is not the God that I know. And I've had clear evidence of that. God is all good all the time, but it takes some shift of thinking. And if you're going to go biblical, Genesis 1 talks about that God of all good who sees everything he made and it was good. Genesis 2 is a parable that's earthbound that talks about 2 powers. And it's actually not the true version of creation. It talks about a serpent, and it talks about duality, and it talks about it actually says Adam fell into a mist covered the earth. That's the sleep we're in now, believing in 2 powers. Rise above that and just believe that all is good. And the minute you start to do all is good, you can heal faster because you're not fighting your lower nature. Just step up to the higher nature.
The easiest way to do good is go out and find somebody to help. That's I'm telling you. That's the way to do it. You don't go out there and try to help yourself. And don't get me wrong, I don't want you to be desperate or destitute. Just, if you want to feel better, go out and find somebody else and make them feel better. It's really simple. And therein lies the belief that life is easy and simple. There's not much to it. There really isn't. It really does help.
I love it. You said that life is supposed to be easy and simple and easy and joyful. You know, if you look for the joy, you will find it. If you look for beauty, you'll find it everywhere. Eckhart Tolle, who's also Wayne Dyer is my favorite of all the writers who began this to me in my generation, as you as well. But Eckhart Tolle, is it Tolle or Tolle? He was destitute, broke, homeless, slept on a park bench, and one day he woke up and thought, he says, I'm going to kill myself today. And then he thought, who am I talking to? If there's 2 of me, maybe only one is the good guy. Maybe I'll just relax a little. He had enough food for that day. He began sleeping on friends' couches and wrote this book called The Power of Now, staying in the present moment, right now. That's where God intersects humanity. When you're delighting in a person you're with, when you're seeing a baby smile, when you're eating a good meal, when you're helping someone else. It's not worrying. If you have 1 foot in tomorrow and 1 foot in yesterday, you're pissing on today.
I agree with that. I do. My sponsor, going back to AA, and by the way, I'm not here to pitch AA. For one, there are a ton of programs out there that can help people. If you want to go another route, please do. I don't care. It was good for me. Obviously, it was good for Lydia, but it's not the only way. And anybody that says that that's the only way, they're lying. There's other ways out. There are.
Free, though. It's free, and it's group therapy all day long on Zoom International.
That's what I like. Is it doesn't cost anything, and it never will, and there's no hierarchy, and on and on.
Yeah.
But it's the teachers that I have found through that I was suggested to go through. I don't necessarily like to discuss that all that much, because I want people to go out there and find their own teachers, their own paths, their own ways of doing things. I'm really not that guy that goes, oh, go read this book or go read this person, or I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. One-on-one with somebody, yes, I might go, if you're open to the idea, read this person, listen to this person, and so on. But there's a ton of people out there that are willing to share and willing to help. Please go out there and find them.
Yeah.
And not only that, it probably isn't going to cost you anything but time. I mean, go to the library for Pete's sake and read. It doesn't. You don't have to buy books.
Although your book is pretty good, I have to say, hold it up again because we don't have much more time. We're going to have you next week, but I want you to, everybody look at this book. It's short. It's really, really practical. And for men, it might change your whole life. And
it's only 100 pages long too. It is really short.
It's great.
So it's not, and you can sit down and read it in 3 hours. It really, it's not very long. So
you're one of my favorite people because I rarely meet men who are really on the path of seeking answers and solutions to help others. It is so important to keep your voice going, to keep writing on Quora or answering questions, or even, every now and then when the spirit moves you. The other day, okay, I went to a 7 a.m. women's meeting, 12-step meeting. I didn't want to share. Out of the blue, I said, I'm willing to share. That's all I did. I'm willing. Once I'm willing to do anything, this spirit of the universe does the heavy lifting after that. I don't do much more. Happened when I first got sober. I was a radioactive, drop dead, suicidal drunk. And when I just raised my hand once, I never had another drink after that first day. I had so many uncanny coincidences. They are mind-boggling. They're supernatural. But now I realize the universe is magic. I'm on a magic carpet ride when I surrender my ego and my fear. And I think the universe, it's not miracles. I think miracles are natural law when you're in the right mindset, when you're in the flow. But I'm telling you, this thing was life-changing. And the other day on this meeting, I just shared something about my mother that I'd never shared before, and that I was from Texas, and a scary moment about my brother's death. I found his body. And this woman got on and she goes, I'm brand new. How'd you know my story? I'm from Texas. My brother, I found his body. And my mother was the same mother. And I go, who told me to say those words right now? There is a higher power looking out for all of us if we'll just surrender to it.
Yeah, I mean,
my voice is crackling.
I'm sure this has happened to you, but I have met people in the hardware store that are in the same place as me for some stupid reason, and you go, what the hell? I mean, we're talking about the same authors, the same experiences, the same backgrounds, and you're going, there's no way this is just random. It's a coincidence. It was meant to be. It just was. I don't believe in. I just don't believe in actual randomness to begin with. I think everything is on purpose, and just scientifically speaking, and this is going to sound a little bit nerdy. Scientifically speaking, nothing happens that isn't supposed to. Okay, exactly. Just strictly science here. Nothing happens that isn't supposed to happen. And if something were to happen that wasn't supposed to happen, it would break the laws of physics, and that can't happen. Okay?
Oh, I love it.
It just can't. Everything that happens from a scientific point of view is supposed to happen. Whether you label it as good or not, that's up to you, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite things I point out to people is if there were no humans on Earth, no people on planet Earth at all, gone, would anything bad ever happen here? I mean, you'd have an occasional earthquake or an asteroid strike or a tsunami or something, but isn't that just nature? I mean, it's just what is designated to happen anyway. And you go, well, it's not good or bad. It's just what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. You're talking in a much higher realm, which I love, by the way. I'm into quantum physics, which proves that there's no solid matter in the universe. Everything is energy. So it's very important where you direct your thinking. And on my particular point of view, particle, I came up with this out of thin air. Of course, I was given this thought, I feel. By being meditative and still, at times I hear the higher thoughts. When I stop grumbling and fighting and watching the news too much, I hear the higher thoughts. But I was thinking about how we judge others, and you can hate somebody, and your particular point of view forms that person as someone to hate. And you can actually hurt that person if your thoughts go there. But particle physics proves that everything exists in waves of possibility until you particularize it with your thought. You make it into a particle. You make a wave of infinite possibility into a solid piece of matter with your thinking. And the object, when you're observing it, it becomes solid. If you stop judging others, it becomes infinitely, you can choose beauty. You can choose to see it as beautiful.
You're talking about the double slit experiment.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. And so if you people out there, if you don't know what it is, look up the double slit experiment. It's really freaky. It's really it's an odd. They came to some odd conclusions with that. So
Einstein called it spooky action from a distance before the double slit experiment, but it's really cool to study quantum physics and to really seek answers in the universe. I did it out of pain. I had, they say pain is a touchstone of all spiritual progress. I had so much pain in my life as a young child. I was so traumatized by things that happened in my life. I was seeking answers from an early age. And you're right, we've both been on that path, and it's so fun when you stop believing the world is just this limitation.
So I believe it or not, in the book, I talk about both quantum physics a little bit and how science and religion are basically the same thing. I think they are.
I believe that too. That's so weird. We all came up with that. Certain of us came up with that at the same time. Science and religion are the same thing.
And the reason the end game of both is the exact same thing.
Yeah, the end game.
Where did we come from, and what's our purpose? It's the same thing in both a religious mindset and a scientific mindset. They're both looking for the same thing. They really are, and they both kind of run on the same energy.
Interesting. Yeah,
they really do.
Well, Einstein said no problem can be solved at the same level it was created on. You have to go to a higher level. You can't fight fire with fire. I mean, yeah, forget burning fields to that other thing. But you can't really fight fire with fire. You can't really fight war with bombs and win peace. You can't really solve alcoholism with more alcohol or drugs. You have to go to a spiritual or diplomatic solution. Or like
the energy of that is humility. You have to embrace humility, or nothing will get better in life. Wow. That's the water to the fire. You absolutely must admit I'm wrong, and somebody out there has more information than me, or it just won't work. It just won't, and I have a hard time with it too. I do. I resist all the time.
Tell me your political philosophy on that note, and then we got to go. But I want to hear how do you determine who to vote for?
Well, without getting too
no, I don't want to hear names. No names.
Yeah, I don't want to create I don't want to create walls. I want to create bridges on this one. But I say that I always vote, and I always vote ethically. That's just how I've always voted. I always choose ethics. Now, why do I do this? Because those who pitch intended policies without having a track record of moral behavior are often nothing more than empty promises.
Good.
Okay. They have to have a track record of moral behavior, or whatever they're talking about doesn't mean anything.
Good for you. I like that too. And doesn't mean we don't have things in our past that we've overcome, because life is about, you're not born perfect. We all have human, we had greedy, crazy years, a lot of us, but I can tell the transformation in a person when they become a better person, or are seeking a higher good. But it's better to stay out of the fray at times. And yes, I'd like to talk about issues and not the candidates.
And I again, I want to reiterate, I'm not beyond all this. I'm just not. What I've written in the book, I'm not perfect. I do all kinds of things that are that go against what I know. I just do. So
yeah.
But the gift is, at least I know a way out. I'm not locked into a room anymore.
Mhm.
I know that I can go and open this door and walk out. So I have the power instead of blame, which is to me handing over everybody else your power. The getting away from blame to me is one of the most empowering things you can do in life. Is
Stop blaming
dropping
others.
blame.
Right.
The reason why I say that is as soon as you're if you're in the habit of blaming, my life sucks because of all of this. That means you have no power over it.
Exactly.
That means everything that happens to you is because of something else, and I don't believe that.
I don't believe that at all. In fact, we're here, each person is here to discover their own so-called salvation, which means how are they going to cope with life and deal with life on life's terms? And until I woke up that day and surrendered to this beautiful, loving universe, I didn't even know it was so exciting. And then I got into a state of wonder, and I became excited about everything. I wasn't numb anymore. And I became a child again. It's so cool to live in a state of wonder.
Yeah, I mean, it would be totally disempowering for me to go. The reason why I'm fat is because it runs in the family. I have big bones. It's genetic, and so on. Now, here's the truth of it, and it really is. If somebody with the right mindset could move into this body, my body, would they have it in shape in a year or not?
Yes.
And the answer is yes. The answer is yes all the time.
Everything starts in the mind. Remember that. And everything is energy. And put it to the energy of love, and your life will go better. And think about how you can help somebody else, and your life will be better. Well, that's all we have time for today, but we're going to have you back. You're one of our favorite co-hosts of the God Shot Synchronicity podcast, which is about God Shot small g. It's about uncanny moments of synchronicity and serendipity and coincidence. True stories of the good things in life. And we want you all to write in. I'm going to leave all the information at the bottom, and it'll be on YouTube later and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Google, all over the place. Thank you, Daniel.
Well, I hope you have a pleasant day, and I hope you're feeling better.
Thank you. Hold your book up again. Insight Out by Daniel Andrew Lockwood. I'll put up you can buy it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. And
if you want to look over my book, just do this.
Oh yeah, keep your sense of humor. Rule 62, don't take yourself too damn seriously.
All right.
Okay, I love you all. Bye. Thank you.